Mr. President, I'm glad to join my colleague, Senator Tester from Montana, on the floor today for a discussion of our Veterans Affairs, our accomplishments of the last 3 years, and our challenges for the future. But I want to start out my part of this conversation by saying this. 3 years ago, the Veterans Administration was making big headlines. Those headlines were that they weren't working well, our veterans were waiting too long for care, there were failures in our system throughout, and people were looking for an alternative to the VA system because it was in such a quagmire. Thanks to the work of our committee, of which the presiding officer today is one of those members, we set out to fix a lot of problems. Number one was the hospital in Denver, which was 40% finished, 3 years behind place, and we're going to close down. That hospital is open today and operating because the Veterans Affairs Committee of the Senate buckled its shoes, got to work, got the VA fixed, got the hospital finished. But the most challenging thing we faced were long wait times for appointments for our veterans in Veterans Services for health care. Longer than 30 days for just a routine appointment, sometimes being as long as 6 months to wait, sometimes dying before they got called up from the waiting list, as happened in the Arizona case in Phoenix. We had some tragic stories that came through, and our committee came together and we said, we're going to fix this. We're going to put our shoulder to the grindstone. We're going to work hard. We're going to make it happen. And like always, fixing anything requires one element, and that's hard work. And the committee has worked hard, Democrats and Republicans alike, been willing to get the new Secretary Shulkin, get all of his aides, Tom Bowman, who's been a great aide to our committee for a long time now, as the direct aide to the Secretary, and said, what is it we need to do to get it fixed? We started out this year with 11 bills introduced for the Veterans Administration improvements in terms of health care. 10 of those 11 have passed. There's one left. We're going to have a perfect 11 for 11 year if we get, before the end of this year, we get the care bill passed for our veterans. But even if that doesn't make it, we've dealt with long waiting lines for determination of benefits at the VA. Those long waiting lines are beginning to dissipate. We don't have hospitals being shut down because they can't be finished. We have CBOCs being opened because they are being finished. We don't have near as many cases of horror stories in a VA health facility because the facilities are being run better. We have problems? Sure, we've got problems. Anytime you have the second largest agency of the federal government, which the VA health system is, you're going to have problems. But we're meeting them head on, we're not running away from them, and we have a secretary who's really willing to work and make it happen. And I cannot say enough about Secretary Shulkin. He has been fantastic. He's been a great worker. He has given President Trump the message in terms of what our veterans need, the challenge that we need from the White House to join us, and the White House substantially has done so to help make a lot of improvements. Working with our ranking member, we decided we would do a number of things. We would end the long wait times for determination of disability, and we've done that. That process is in process. We wanted to see to it that the modern access to health care was available to all our veterans, one way or another. We wanted to make sure that we came up with creative ideas by using telemedicine and other techniques to deliver health care to our veterans. But most importantly, we knew that the Choice Act that we passed 3 years ago, led by Senator McCain, who's in our prayers and thoughts every day, I might add, on the floor of the Senate today. And we wish him the very best if he's listening. But Senator McCain went to work and came up with the first aspect of choice, which passed 3 years ago. I was on the conference committee. We had this crazy idea that we're going to let veterans choose where they want to go for their health care. We set up a system to do that. System worked pretty well in some cases. Senator Tester will tell you in rural America it didn't work all that good in some cases. But it was a good effort of ours to take the private sector in America, make it a force multiplier for the health care services delivered to our veterans, and expand the access for health care to our vets. Well, now we have before the Senate what we call the CARE Act. And it's the finishing touches of what was originally the Choice Act. We're taking the things that we've learned and repealing them that were wrong. We've taken the things we've learned that are right and we're enhancing them. And I hope every member of the Senate can hear my voice today will join me at some time in the next few weeks ahead to finish the job and pass the CARE Act. Our committee passed out 14-1. Democrats and Republicans alike, shoulder to shoulder, voting for the right thing to do for our vets. And we hopefully are going to do the same thing on the floor. Now, the CARE Act does a lot of amazing things, but it takes what we've learned in 3 years and applies it to real world for our veterans. It says a veteran has choice for his health care, public or private, VA or private sector. The veteran may, and he or her doctor, determine where they want to go. And the doctor and the physician providing the services, if outside the system, will cooperate with the VA, and so we have good medical records of that veteran. And they'll work together to choose doctors that have the quality, the reputation, and the ability to deliver the service, whether in the VA or outside the VA. The veteran comes first in Veterans Choice. In caring for the Veterans Act, the veteran comes first, not members of the Senate, not employees in the VA, but the veteran comes first, which is what we need to do. So I hope everyone will join Senator Tester and myself in seeing to it when we get this to the floor, and we're trying every day, they join us in helping pass the CARE Act. One last thing I'll mention about the CARE Act is it also contains the funding necessary to complete the year for the Veterans Administration in terms of health services. But more importantly, it consolidates the stovepipes of funding in the VA so we no longer have this Mickey Mouse game, which we've all experienced for the last 5 or 6 years, where the VA is always running out of money. The Congress has never cut the VA off. When we had the biggest shutdowns 5 or 6 years ago, or potential shutdowns in the government that we had, we passed bills that exempted the VA to demonstrate long and hard that we would never leave our veterans in need of health care coverage waiting because we couldn't act in the Congress. And that would happen again today if that was threatening us. So I want to undermine, this is not a matter of anybody threatening anybody, it's a matter of us finishing the job for our veterans and seeing to it that the Veterans Administration has the resources necessary to deliver the services to our veterans. So for those who can hear this plea, and it's a plea, understand I came to the floor to say 3 things. One is thank you. Thank you to every member of the Senate that voted with us to get us where we are today, that's passed the 10 of 11 bills we've brought in this year for veterans' health care services. Thank you very much. To Senator Tester, as the ranking member, thank you for your cooperation. We have worked together to find a solution to every impasse that we confronted throughout the year. To Senator from Alaska, who's presiding today as a member of the committee, thank you for what you did for those veterans in need in our states that have limited access to health care, like Alaska. We need to make sure the Alaskan veteran has the same access and the same benefits that they signed up for, that the one does in Georgia or in any other state. And to Senator Tester from Montana, who has worked so hard to see to it that rural America has the same type of access. There may not be as many doctors, there may not be as many VA facilities, but we can design a system that gives them the very best access, the very best care that that region where they choose to live can offer. And that is our challenge. Our challenge in the VA is not to say, well, you should have lived somewhere else. Our challenge is to say we should have concentrated more in the VA to see to it where you live was the right place to be in terms of veteran services, and we're going to do that. And lastly, I want to thank Secretary Shulkin. He was approved 100-0 by the Senate. I believe I'm right, he's the only cabinet member that was confirmed by the Senate 100-0. And as everybody knows from watching us the last 8 or 9 months, we hadn't agreed on much of nothing. We hadn't had any unanimous votes on hardly anything. But we did on David Shulkin, and he has delivered in response to that 100-0 vote time and time again, working for our veterans, helping to correct problems, helping to work with us together. And I look forward to next year as we bring a close to the CARE Act and pass it, to moving forward with those new things we need to pay attention to. I look forward to working with Senator Tester from Montana and the members of the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in our committee to remember we're veterans first, we're Americans first. God bless our veterans. May God bless the United States of America.